When Matt Fraser retired in 2020, he had put on the most impressive run ever seen in the sport of CrossFit. He won 5 straight individual titles and reached levels of fitness that seem like they may never be rivaled again. Commonly regarded as the greatest to ever do it, Fraser faced many challenges throughout his career, including the great Rich Froning, multiple season formats, and the many other challenges that come with being the fittest on earth. But despite this greatness and unmatched success, there is one title that Matt Fraser should have never won. By 2019, Matt Fraser had already won 3 of his 5 titles and looked almost unstoppable while doing it. Yet halfway through the weekend of the 2019 CrossFit Games, it was looking like Fraser's win streak was about to come to a surprising end. Going into the weekend, Fraser was a clear favorite to win and by far the fittest person there, yet it felt like everything that could possibly go wrong was. This title in 2019 stands out as the greatest accomplishment of Matt Fraser's career and the highlight of the most dominant run ever. Fraser's win in 2019 was far more impressive than anyone realized. Fraser's road to his most difficult title all started in the very first event of the year. Now before we get into that, we need to understand the format for the 2019 CrossFit Games was very different than it had been any other year. In all the years before this, the qualification process to get to the games had been very streamlined, with 40 people qualifying for the games. However, in 2019, the season format changed and there were now a few different ways to qualify. You could qualify if you were top 20 in the CrossFit Open, you could qualify through an out-of-season CrossFit competition called a Sanctional, or you could qualify by winning the Open for your country. This third one in particular ended up causing some issues. In all, 141 male athletes showed up for the CrossFit Games in 2019, over 100 more than every other year. This one seemingly insignificant thing set the stages for some of the challenges Fraser would have to overcome this weekend. Before the first workout, CrossFit announced they would be cutting half the field after just one event. Now these cuts were not an issue for Fraser as he had a very dominant event win, taking first place in this event. And from there, it looked like Fraser was going to continue his dominance from the year before and cruise to his 4th straight championship. But while he did win this event with ease, this event actually played a large role in the difficulties he faced this weekend. But we'll get to that in just a minute. The second workout of this year was called Second Cut, which was yet another event with significant cuts, this time from 75 down to 50. There were 2 main things in this workout that presented an issue for a number of guys. The first was a vague or inconsistent standard on the kettlebell push press, where some athletes, including Fraser, ended up doing about 20 extra reps on this portion of the workout. The second was an unbroken standard on the handstand walk portion of this event, where athletes had to do unbroken sections of 44 feet. This unbroken standard really punished some very good athletes and made this a high-risk event. Luckily, neither of those ended up being a problem for Fraser. 2 workouts, 2 event wins. Fraser again got through without a scratch. Or so it seemed. Event 3 at the 2019 CrossFit Games was a 6,000 meter ruck run, done in 4 1,500 meter laps, starting with a 20-pound ruck where you had to pick up a new 10-pound sandbag every lap, finishing with the last lap at 50 pounds. Fraser finished with an impressive 6th place finish on this workout, but after the workout had finished, video surfaced of one of his sandbags falling out of his backpack during the run. This happened on the very last lap, just a few hundred meters away from the finish line. These GoRuck backpacks were bending weird from the sandbags and coming unzipped, which is why a sandbag was able to fall out. However, there was some talk about why Fraser didn't turn around and pick it up.
So as I'm running, I felt like a brushing on the side of my foot, and it was like a quick glance. And so my first thought is someone's passing me up this side, and they like brushed my foot. And so that was the quick look over my shoulder. Didn't see an athlete, but then I saw one of the like big orange sandbags that they were using to hold the fence in place.
Yeah.
They were just on all the legs of the fence throughout the whole course.
Oh, so you thought maybe you kicked that.
And so I thought it was the material hanging off the side of the bag that I just brushed my foot.
I could see how he may not have noticed. It would be hard to tell the difference between 50 pounds on your back and 40 pounds on your back that deep into a workout, especially with how much the bag would have been moving around. Either way, the penalty the CrossFit Games team decided on was 1 minute added to his time for the workout, making him fall from 6th place down to 17th, losing valuable points that he was going to need desperately later in the weekend. Looking back, this one equipment malfunction in this event was really the beginning of a string of bad luck for Fraser. The 4th workout of this year is responsible for one of the biggest controversies in CrossFit Games history, with Fraser sadly being on the losing side of it. This workout was a light sled push down to the rig, 18 bar muscle ups, and then a sled push back to the start. Now, 18 bar muscle ups in this workout, almost every single guy there was going to be doing it unbroken, which meant that most of your score was going to come down to how fast you could run with this extremely light sled. And this is exactly what we saw. Everyone went unbroken and flew through the muscle ups, but then some athletes were seemingly pushing a 400-pound sled, while others looked like they were pushing an empty sled on ice. These seemingly irregular performances on the sled push left lots of people questioning the fairness of this workout, claiming some of the lanes were easier to push the sled on than others. Even competitors like Fraser and Patrick Vellner were wondering how some people were running with the sled, while others felt like they were pushing against a wall. There was a lot of talk and speculation about the fairness of this event when it happened, but nothing really came of it, and the weekend just continued on. However, looking back on it with time to analyze this event has indeed verified some of what the athletes were feeling and what the spectators had seen. Wad Science on Instagram made a very interesting post about the average placing and times of each person on the sled workout throughout the 4 heats of people that did this, and found that certain lanes were indeed much faster. And as I started to look into it myself, I became very convinced that this was indeed an unfair test. Let me show you. This is the names and lane assignments for the 2 heats of men that did this event. 1st through 6th placing all belong to 3 lanes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, all in these 3 lanes. I started by plotting it out like this, and then as I continued to plot out how people placed in this event, a serious picture started to unfold. To find anyone in these middle 8 lanes, you have to go to 16th place Elliott Simmons. Look at these top 15 and tell me certain lanes did not have an advantage. Why would everyone in the middle just go slower? I don't know. Maybe these giant misting fans blowing water all over certain lanes had something to do with it. Oh, and notice there is none in the middle lanes. The fans almost exactly line up with the faster lanes. Now, this is all just speculation, but in the end, Fraser ended up taking a 21st place out of 40 from a middle lane. Again, losing valuable points. The 5th event of the weekend was the classic CrossFit benchmark workout Mary. And honestly, the first workout this weekend that does not play a major role in this story. Fraser took a 2nd place finish just behind Noah Ohlsen, who after this event win had officially took the lead and was now sitting in 1st place with 5 more points than Fraser. In the next event the following morning, Noah would take that lead and run with it. Event 6 was a down and back sprint, which is exactly the type of workout Noah Ohlsen would want to see. He dusted Fraser on his way to a 3rd place finish in this event, where Fraser got a 15th place. Halfway through the competition, with the field now cut down to just 10 athletes, Noah Ohlsen had a 65-point lead over Matt Fraser. But how did we get here? How did we go from Fraser winning the first 2 events with ease and looking like he was going to dominate all weekend to Noah being ahead by 65 points? Well, it's because Matt Fraser had something working against him the whole weekend. An overarching issue, aside from the suspect movement standards, ruck bags falling open, unfair sled push lanes, and extreme penalties. And that was the scoring system. Let me explain. In event 1, Matt Fraser took 1st place. Noah Ohlsen took 16th place. Fraser got 100 points, and Ohlsen got 70 points. In event 6, Matt Fraser took 15th place. Noah Ohlsen took 3rd place. Fraser got 30 points, and Ohlsen got 90. Between event 1 and event 6, Fraser took a 1st place finish and a 15th place finish for a total of 130 points. Ohlsen took a 16th and a 3rd place for a total of 160 points. In these 2 workouts, they almost swapped placings, and yet Noah came out of it with more points. But how can this even happen? Well, in the first event, there were 141 people who did it, and so the scoring system decreased from 1st place down to last. In the 6th event, the same thing happened, but there were only 20 people. This scoring system would actually make complete sense if the people that had competed in the first event were at a similar fitness level. But the problem is, Noah got 70 points for taking 16th out of 141 when there was nowhere near 141 people there who should have been factoring into the point system. Remember how the national champs got invites to the CrossFit Games this year? Yeah, Noah Ohlsen got points for beating guys like the 5'4", 140-pound Vietnam national champ. If Fraser was going to have a bad event, he should have done it earlier rather than later, while he still could have got a bunch of points for it. When you have cuts this significant and an extremely top-heavy field, the order of events matters so much. And some of these guys should have never had an effect on the outcome of the games. Yet Matt Fraser's legacy was almost changed forever by people nowhere near his level. Either way, the scoring system was out of Fraser's control. Down by 65 points with no more cuts and the final top 10 left, Fraser had his work cut out for him.
I think this is a great event to pit your 1st and 2nd place men against each other.
Event 7 was an insanely dominant performance from Fraser, again making it look like he's in a league of his own. Finishes the workout so far in first, he would have had enough time to cook and eat a post-workout meal while waiting for the second person to finish. And guess who comes in second place? Noah Ohlsen. A dominant performance by Matt Fraser, beating Noah Ohlsen by a full minute, and yet he only made up 10 points. With only 10 athletes left, there was no one to middle between him and Noah, which left him still down by 55 points going into event 8, which was a 1-rep max clean. And I think we all know how that went. Fraser had a walk-off event win while Noah took 5th, putting Fraser now just 15 points behind going into the final day of competition.
Must have 2 straight wins, and strap in, everybody. Sunday is going to be a blast at the CrossFit Games.
Needing to make up 15 points going into the final day with 3 events scheduled seemed like it was a very doable task for Matt Fraser, except for one problem. The first event of this final day was a swim paddle workout, and Noah Ohlsen, the guy Fraser was chasing, was a former collegiate water polo player and beat Fraser by 2 spots, putting him 35 points behind with just 2 more events to go. And to throw even more gas on the flame, Will Morad had gotten hurt with a hamstring injury, meaning there was now only 9 men left competing and only 7 that could possibly middle between Fraser and Noah. Matt had a 35-point deficit to make up, with seemingly nowhere to earn that many points. As they met in the Coliseum to be briefed on the last 2 workouts, Fraser's one saving grace, his one blessing of the weekend happened. A double-scored event. The second to last event had 2 separate workouts in it, meaning more points on the table. What happened in these final workouts would define Matt Fraser. These moments would shape the way we looked at his career. With the loss this year, even if he came back to win 2 or 3 more after, there would be almost nothing he could do to surpass Rich Froning. A loss now would forever tarnish his legacy. This was it. And Matt did exactly what he needed to do, stomping on the gas and never letting up. In both of these workouts, he put distance between him and Noah, taking back the leader's jersey going into the final event. All he had to do now was stay in front of Noah on the final event, and he would win his 4th straight CrossFit Games.
Mr. Froning, you have company. For the 4th straight time, Matt Fraser is the CrossFit Games champion.
In 2019, Matt Fraser had almost everything working against him. The scoring system, the order of events, an equipment malfunction, an unfair event, all while competing against some of the greatest athletes to ever do it. To have all of this go wrong and still win is something only one man could do. And that man is Matt Fraser.